We're going to go ahead and call this meeting to order. It's Monday, December 7th. This will be our budget hearing for 2021. And ask Commissioner Schutte to read us in the pledge.
I pledge
to the flag of the United States of America
and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I think today that pledge has a lot of significance. Go ahead and Mackenzie, could you do the roll call, please?
Commissioner District 1, Randy Netherland.
He is here, but he is muted.
I am here.
Perfect. Commissioner District 2, Kevin Schutte.
Here?
Commissioner District 3, Sharon Kraft.
I'm here. We'll move on to item number 4. This is the 2021 budget hearing and turn it over to Jennifer.
Thank you, Commissioner. This public hearing is to consider adoption of the 2021 budget for Mason County. RCW 36.40.060 requires the Board of County Commissioners to hold a public hearing on the 2021 preliminary budget to allow taxpayers to appear and be heard for or against any part of the budget. The public hearing also allows county departments to publicly testify if they so desire. Pursuant to RCW 36.40.071 and resolution number 111-85, this hearing is to be held on the first Monday in December. Copies of the 2021 preliminary budget were made available to the public on November 20th, 2020. There were no dollar changes to any funds from what was presented on November 20th. A balanced budget must be adopted by December 31st. And I want to take a moment to acknowledge everyone who worked on this budget during this very difficult COVID year. So thank you for all of your work, everyone. And a special thank you to Kelly Berg in Support Services, who's went above and beyond dealing with all of the CARES funding and billing, and for everything she does on a daily basis to keep us in compliance. Thank you, Kelly. And also a special thank you to our auditors financial services team for the work that they do on the preliminary budget. It really makes my job easier. And a thank you to them for everything they do on a daily basis to keep us in compliance as well. And we really have a great team, and I just wanted to acknowledge all of you. I'm really proud to work with such an amazing group of people. So with that, there are 2 options for recommended actions. Option 1 is move to adopt the 2021 budget in the total amount of $125,853,487. The general fund is $53,464,511 and is broken down as follows. The beginning fund balance is $14 million. Revenue excluding beginning fund balance is $39,464,511. The salaries and benefits are $28,699,727. The operating expenditures are $11,983,896. And the ending fund balance, $12,780,888. The total other funds are $72,388,976, and that's broken down by salaries and benefits are $12,579,770, and total operating expenditures $59,809,206. And so that's the end of option 1. Option 2 is close public comment and continue the hearing to December 15th, 2020 at 9:15 a.m. to consider adoption of the 2021 budget. Are there any questions or comments, commissioners?
Commissioners, do we have any questions, comments?
Not at this time.
All right. All right, so this is my first, well, I guess not my first, but my first being chair. And so relying on the other two commissioners to kind of guide me through. So I think we should move on to comment by our departments. Do we have anybody that would like to comment from our departments? Department heads, I see no hands raised. And nobody has unmuted themselves.
Madam Chair, if you don't mind, yeah, it's the same as any other, just ask for questions, then testimony from the public.
Okay. All right, thank you, Commissioner. Do we have any questions from anyone in the Zoom room? Seeing none, I don't see any hands raised or no one has unmuted themselves. And Mackenzie, did we receive any public comment through telephone calls or through emails?
No, we did not.
Thank you. All right, well, Commissioner, motion or deliberation?
Madam Chair, I move to adopt the 2021 budget in total amount of $853,487. The general fund is $53,464,511, and the total other funds are $72,388,976.
I'll second that.
We have a motion and a second to adopt the 2021 budget in the total amount of $125,853,487. The general fund is $53,464,511, and the total other funds are $72,388,976. Do we have any comments?
Yes, please. I'd like to echo what Jennifer said and just give a special thank you to everybody, but we also need to give a thank you to everybody across the board. This has been an incredible year. This could have been a very, very, very bad year, and it will be for other counties. Unlike us, we were prepared and we are sitting in a very good position, but it's still highly appreciated that all of our departments did not get greedy this year, understanding the circumstances we were at, which made this budget process so much easier. And at the same time, it made sure to protect everybody's job by everybody not being greedy at this time. So a special thank you to every single department elected official that's out there. Some of you always give every year to make it work, but this year was exceptional. So thank you to everybody, and may this be the best that we can do. And I think it is. We're in a good position for this county coming into the future. And a thank you to the commissioners for all your hard work, because there was a lot to be considered this time. This was not for the faint of heart. So thank you guys very much for all the work you've done.
Madam Chair, just to kind of echo Commissioner Netherland's comments there. Everybody recognizes the unique nature of 2020 and the effect that it's had across our community, across our state and nation. We know that there are a lot of people out there that are struggling, that are going to rely on county services in the coming months, maybe in different ways than they had in the past. And so, as Commissioner Netherland mentioned, this is as good as it gets, and I don't say that in a way that is diminishes this budget in any way. I think we've done a good job at balancing the needs of the community with the financial resources that are available to us. We continue to fully fund our reserves, which is a critical piece of maintaining financial stability, in particular in a crisis like we're in now. And we've also been able to make some additional investments in parts of the county government that needed it. We'll never be able to address every concern, every budget, and so this is always an iterative process. It's always building on the previous year's work. Having been through a few of these now, I always say upon adoption that we're going to enjoy being able to pass this budget today, but really the work continues immediately. We're always monitoring the budget and making sure that we're living within our means and being good stewards of the people's tax dollars. And so definitely supportive of this budget with the recognition that the work continues as it always does. Also want to extend a gratitude to our budget staff and support services. Jennifer and Kelly did tremendous work, keep getting us prepared leading up to this hearing today throughout the process, but also the folks that work on budget and all of the other offices across the county. Again, a difficult year where you've been asked to do things differently, a lot of remote meetings that make some of the in-the-room budget work difficult and impossible to do. You've done tremendously making things work this year, and so you should all feel very proud of the effort that you've given on behalf of our constituents in Mason County, and all deserve much more praise than I think the three of us are able to even articulate today. So just a word of gratitude on that, and very grateful to be able to get to this point and adopt a budget that keeps Mason County moving forward.
Great, thank you. I too would like to thank all of our budget staff and every department for going above and beyond. I've said in the past that this is going to be a year for the record books, and it definitely has been. And I think next year is going to be a difficult year, but I do believe the budget that we're going to adopt today is a very good, solid budget. And I think the citizens of Mason County will look at it and appreciate the hard work that's gone into it. Jennifer, thank you so much for all your help. You've answered a lot of questions for me, and you never made me feel stupid.
Well, thank you.
And so I appreciate all the hard work that you and everyone else has done. And again, thanks to the departments like Commissioner Netherland said and Commissioner Schutte said, thank you for all doing your part and helping this be a productive year. And next year should be a lot of fun as well. All right, let's move on to the vote. All those in favor of this motion, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, the motion passes. So now do I all just stand up and
Just let the staff know that their annual thank you here for the stresses of the budget will be coming again this year, making arrangements. Diane will set up times.
Jennifer, just because the budget is adopted now doesn't mean we want to hear champagne bottles popping.
Yeah.
I'll hold off.
You need to wait until after 5 o'clock.
Okay. Thank you, commissioners.
Thank you. All right. Do we have a motion to adjourn this portion?
Madam Chair, I move we adjourn our special meeting.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to adjourn our special meeting. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? All right, we are adjourned. All right. Good morning, everybody. It's Monday, December 7th. We're going to begin our briefings. We're going to start with a 9:30 Historic Preservation Commission interview.
Jan?
It is Jan.
Hi, Jan. Are you ready for your Historic Preservation Commission interview?
Yes.
Perfect.
Hi, Jan. I'm Sharon Trask. And with me, we have Commissioner Schutte and Commissioner Netherland.
I can't hear you very well.
Can you hear me better now?
Not really. Can you hear me okay?
I can hear you just fine.
Okay, I'll just try to listen real carefully.
Okay, I'll talk real loud and try to talk real plain.
Okay.
So first we want to thank you for applying for the Historic Preservation Commission. And we have a series of questions that we'd like to ask you. First, we'll start with Commissioner Schutte.
Good morning.
Morning, Jan. First question for you is, what do you see as the function of this advisory board?
Well, first, I think that the obvious and stated reason, one of the stated reasons for the purpose of the board is to identify and preserve or conserve historical sites in the county. Second, I would say that, just to summarize things, information, I think that information to communities of Mason County about the historical sites and their presence, and probably information to help tourism possibly. And that sort of also incorporates my last point, I guess, which would be to aid the tourist economy by providing information to tourism points of interest, such as through the social media, through other places that promote tourism in Mason County.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Right. Oh, Randy, you're muted.
Why would you like to sit on this advisory board?
Well, I was born here. I was born in Shelton at the old hospital. I grew up in Shelton. I have always had a presence here through my family, and I retired here about 6 years ago. I also have a history degree from the University of Washington, and you might say my hobby is historical research. I am currently the president of the Historical Society of Mason County, and I also volunteer at the museum 1 day a week. I see a lot of things that are being preserved, but I also see some areas of historical preservation that we are losing. And I sort of see volunteering on this committee as a natural progression of my desire and my commitment to Mason County history.
All right, great. So the board may meet in the evenings. Is that a problem, or is that doable?
That's fine with me.
Great.
Do you have any conflicts of interest with the mission of the advisory board?
Not that I see. I am, as I told you, president of the Historical Society, but I see that as an enhancement and not necessarily a conflict.
Do you have any questions that you would like to ask us?
I actually do have one, and it's sort of a broad question, but because of my position at the Historical Society, I'm wondering if there has ever been thought given to possibly working in concert with the Historical Society, particularly in the areas of identifying new sites, providing research on sites you might be researching towards giving a designation or money, and we can also provide tourism information as well, and a list of the historical sites would be something we could put out. And I wondered if you saw any block to us working together in that capacity.
Personally, I don't see anything, but I would think that would be up to your committee. I don't see any conflict in that. If the conflict was to arise, it would arise on an individual basis, not as a whole.
Mm-hmm.
But I can see.
Okay. That was my question.
Well, that was pretty
Do you have
easy.
any more questions for me?
We don't, Jan. What we'd like to do is we'll probably finish up these interviews today, and then we will let you know as soon as we've made a decision.
Great. Thank you for your interest in your interview.
Well, thank you for your interest. It's much appreciated.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye, Jan.
Bye-bye.
All right, commissioners, we have heard from all three now. What are your thoughts moving forward?
I love that connection. Anybody telling us that there is something to worry about there? I love the connection that she was bringing forward between the two entities. They are going for the same exact thing. Why not utilize the talents in both organizations?
I agree. I would be supportive of appointing Jan.
Yeah, you know, I see her connection with the historical or with the museum as a benefit.
Yes.
And so I would support Jan as a new member.
We appreciate everybody that has put forth the effort. And again, we do the very best that we can when we're selecting them. We're as human as anybody else. It's never anything personal. It's just, we see an opportunity like this, we need to take advantage of that.
Right. Yeah. I do miss the face-to-face, but I think this worked. So we're all in agreement to appoint Jan.
Yep.
All right.
We're on the agenda.
And
Do
we
we
can
want to add
add
this
that tomorrow.
to the agenda tomorrow?
Yeah.
Yep, that works. Does that work, Diane?
Yes, we'll amend the agenda.
All right, thank you. All right, let's move on to Superior Court. Judge Goodell. Good morning.
Good morning, everybody. I am before the commission on behalf of the Superior Court. And what we have is a request for a new ordinance that replaces an old ordinance. The ordinance that we are dealing with relates to mandatory arbitration. And the last time that this was addressed was back in I think it was in the early 2000s. But the statutes changed. So what we needed to do is simply update the references set forth in the ordinance, which is the proposed ordinance is attached to our briefing materials. Also, there is a ability for the court to increase a fee. When there's an arbitration, a matter may qualify for arbitration. It doesn't come into the Superior Court for the judges to deal with. It goes off to an arbitrator. Okay, so it gets assigned to an arbitration. At the conclusion of the arbitration prepares an award, and that arbitration award is subject to being, in essence, appealed to the Superior Court. At that point, there is what is called a trial de novo, which means we start over. It's not like a regular court of appeals that you say, here are your issues, and allow another court to deal with just the issues now that the facts have already been established. That's not the case. A trial de novo is where it comes back in, starts over again for a judge, and then there's certain results that can happen from that. And if you don't do better than you did, if you appeal it to a trial de novo and you don't do as well as you did back in arbitration, then you have to pay the other side's attorney's fees and costs. And so that's how a de novo works. Well, what this does is it increases our fee. Previously, we had established a fee for a trial de novo before our court at $250. It increases it to $400, which is the max amount that the statute allows. It's not going to result in a lot of revenue change. Back in 2019, we had a total of 4 trial de novos. In 2020, we had a total of 1 so far. So, of course, this year is an odd year. So anyway, we have had the prosecutor's office, Mr. Whitehead, took a look at it. He approved it. And so we are proposing it to the commission to review it. And if you agree, have you approve that and update our arbitration ordinance. Are there any questions?
Yes, Your Honor, I have a question. Is there any chance that this increase could be seen as a penalty for those that want to try to appeal it, or perhaps even worse, a financial roadblock for someone to keep them from doing that?
Anytime that you charge for something, you could come up with that type of argument, I suppose. We do have, in certain circumstances, the ability to waive fees coming in. And so it could be that, and before it ever goes to arbitration, there still is a filing in our court. And so there's a filing fee that is required. And we do have the ability to waive that in certain circumstances. And so this does not, I don't believe, and that's something I haven't checked into, whether a person can file a request to waive. It might be the case. Frankly, Commissioner, I'm not certain about the answer to that.
Well, if they're seen as no real financial benefit, then what is the purpose behind the increase?
We look to this as an opportunity to recoup some of the expenses, at least that the court incurs as a result of a person choosing to take a matter and have it relitigated. And it does draw on our resources to do that. And I'm not saying that an arbitrator's award is never incorrect. And when we say it's incorrect, it most likely is a different opinion more than it is incorrect. And so it does not create, like I said, much change in a revenue for the Superior Court, but it does give us an opportunity to recoup some of the costs associated with a person coming in.
Your Honor, what would a ballpark on what is it? What are the actual costs of a de novo?
We don't track our costs. Okay, so de novo is a full trial. Okay, so it will be a bench trial, and so that is what you would have. And so if you could just think through all the different parts of the trial, there may be motions brought before the court prior to the time of the trial. There may be, who knows how long the trial would take. Just to kind of give you a reference, the statutory requirement for arbitrations are, at least in our court, one of those requirements is any claim less than $100,000 has to go into arbitration unless the relief requested is greater or is different than just a recovery of money. So if there is a cause of action, let's say it's for damages associated with a boundary line dispute. So they're asking for money, maybe timber trespass, something like that, where there's recovery of money, but also they want the court to either affirm or change a boundary line. Okay, well, but by asking the court that additional request, it never goes into arbitration because an arbitrator cannot do that. All an arbitrator can do is award money. you see a lot of personal injury type cases go into arbitration if they're under $100,000, and civil suits where, again, the dollar figure is the only thing that's being requested. So when it comes back before us, it goes back into the normal course of any other case that comes before us. And so are we going to be able to tell you how much it costs for any one case to get in front of a judge and have a 1 day, 2 day, or 3 day trial? I can't.
I don't have any questions, and I'm good with going forward with this.
I'm hesitant.
I agree. I just yeah.
So one thing that I could do for the commission is I can go back and take a look at something that I, until Commissioner Nedlin brought it up, I had not considered. I don't believe that there's a waiver ability. I understand the concerns of the commission. But I can go back and take a look at the waiver statute and find out if it does apply, because then what we are looking to are those that can't afford, then does that apply to them? But still, even with that being said, I can also understand the concern of the commission.
I just want to make sure that if it is done, we have a purpose for doing that, and it's not literally just accidentally because we're just trying to push back a little bit, that it accidentally gets done in order to stop them from moving forward. So please, I'd like us to look at that again further.
Okay, and then also, I think that there's something lost here in my presentation, and there's one point that I did not bring up, is that what this does is it recoups the arbitration cost. So it's not going to be the cost of the court. It's the recoupment of the arbitration cost. 1/2 of it's paid by the county and 1/2 of it's paid by the state. So what we are talking about is still the same issue. I recognize that, but that's what the recoupment is for. It's not what it costs us to do a trial. It is the recoupment of the arbitration costs that were previously expended. Again, 1/2 by the county, 1/2 by the state.
So the arbitration costs are $800, or excuse me, what do we got? Yeah, $800.
Well, okay, so the arbitrators will charge what arbitrators will charge, and so there's no set fee of what an arbitrator charges, but $400 is by far be a low number for what an arbitrator would actually charge.
Isn't arbitration typically, don't they typically charge per hour for the time that it takes?
Yeah.
And I honestly assumed that there would be a waiver for indigent.
I don't know the answer to that, but I will find that out and I will supplement that information to the commission.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Appreciate that. Okay. Okay, and just as a off task or off briefing point, but I'll just make it brief. Just so that you know that we no longer are having personal appearances again in our criminal courts, and we have suspended our jury trials in the Superior Court, and that is until January 11th. We sat down last week and decided that, given the current climate, that would be the more prudent approach with our court. I just want to make sure the commission understands where we are.
Judge, do we know what other counties are doing? Other Superior Courts?
A lot of other counties are doing the same exact thing.
Right, because I do know that positive cases have jumped.
Well, there's a lot of things that go into that equation. And this was not this was not something that the health department suggested that we do. It is something that we sat down. We've been watching things and have been concerned. The courts on the east side, the Snohomish, the King, the Pierce, they did that before we did, and we kind of look to them because they're on the front lines of the numbers before they come over to this direction. And we think while they have to deal with things that are happening to them, at least we have the opportunity here in this county to kind of watch and see what's going on over there and start making our decisions. So we do have an opportunity to make our decisions based upon some information that they may not have going in. So that's the choice that we've made right now. And again, as I explained in the past, the Supreme Court state of Washington has given us the authority to suspend for periods of time based upon the current COVID issue.
Kelly, did you have anything you wanted to add?
Yeah, I just want to jump in 1 second. While we are shut down in that area, we are getting the new HVAC system put in throughout the courthouse first, second floor. So while they're shut down, we do have that in action. Should start as early as this week.
And again, I want to express my appreciation to the commission moving forward on that. That really will enhance our ability as we consider reopening to the public, because you're enhancing the air quality of our courtrooms.
I'm glad that we're taking advantage of downtimes, that's for sure.
Yeah, great. Okay. Any other questions?
Thank you.
Okay. Okay. Thank you, commissioners.
Thank you, Judge. All right. Moving on to support services. Frank, are you there?
Yes, good morning, commissioners.
You are. Good morning.
First item we have is with Diane, and that's regarding the schedules for 2020, the balance of 2020 and 2021.
Yes, so the question is, does the commissioners want to continue with the every other week meeting schedule for 2021?
Right, and I believe that we still have the opportunity to, or we're still allowed to go ahead and if we have an emergency, we can always have an emergency meeting, correct?
Right, you can schedule there. I'm not doing anything to the code. We'll just typically schedule 1 week briefing, then the next week commission meeting. But I am suggesting we start the year with a briefing on January 4th and then a meeting on the 5th, because next Tuesday is our last regular meeting for 2020.
I'm comfortable with it in the beginning of the year still. I don't know that I'm comfortable. I don't want to make it for the year. I'd like for us to get back to normal if normal becomes available. But for the beginning of the year, I have no issue with that.
Right, I would agree with that.
I would agree, you know, and I know if we looking at the calendar that Diane provided us, it looks like we're going to be briefing fairly regularly with a couple of holiday in between. You know, but I would maybe be interested in getting back to a weekly briefing schedule to start and continuing with the 2 business meetings. I know that probably won't be an issue until March maybe, but yeah, it might be a good way to start, but I'm comfortable with what's being presented.
Okay, so in February, February 1st wouldn't have a briefing if we go every other week, but do you want to go every week for briefing? Right from January on, or wait until February, March?
I think we're here 3 out of the 4 in January. You know, might be good to just stick with what you presented, Diane, and then
Okay.
at the end of January, take a look at how things are and see if we can fill them back in for February and March. That'd be my.
Okay. And then for your committee assignments for 2021, I didn't know if the board wanted to make changes on those.
I'm good with what I have.
Commissioners, I was looking to maybe cycle off of the criminal justice working team. Willing to make a trade, or if somebody wants to pick that up. You have to entertain that.
Can we have that discussion on our next one? Do we have to do it right now? Because I'd like to look over it a little bit better, and maybe, we can do look at a little trading, but for the most part, I'm so used to these. It's more the bigger ones that I wonder about if people want to cycle off of also, because it gets pretty tiring on some of those. I know that's why I gave them up so, to you guys, but either way.
Yeah, I would not mind taking on the criminal justice working team. Kind of have a passion for that anyway. So maybe Commissioner take a look at what I have and see if there's something that you would like to take over.
Yeah, and we can to give Commissioner Netherland another chance to take a look at it.
Yep.
Maybe revisit this in a week or at the beginning of the year.
Yeah, our next briefing will be January 4th. Right now, I don't have anything scheduled for next Monday, but I can if the board wants.
I don't mind looking at it January 4th and making the decision as the new year.
Okay. I'll bring it back then on January 4th.
That works.
And then for the MTA board, because Deb Peterson resigned from the Hood Canal School Board, there's an elected official vacancy, which would be in Commissioner Schuette's district. So I've drafted the letter to send out to all the elected that are in Commissioner District 2. So I want to just check with the board and make sure it's okay to circulate that letter. So there'll be hopefully applicants for you to interview in the new year, because this position is appointed by the county commissioners also, although it is on the MTA board.
I'm a strong proponent of supporting the commissioner that's in that district. They know their people and their electeds, and unless there's something glaringly wrong with the appointment, I just like to support the commissioner's view of what he would like representing his community. Because the way we split this up after we made the changes was to make sure that each community was represented fairly. And nobody's going to know better how to do that than the commissioner that's sitting in that seat. So, Kevin, I'm supportive of how you want to do it.
Yeah, so I think this is how we address the most recent vacancy in District 3. I think it's good to solicit to see what folks are interested in it, and then kind of go from there. I did hear that Kelly Frazier might be in District 11. I'll have to check with that guy.
And wait, there comes a picture.
Oh, not on.
I think you heard wrong.
Yeah.
I know that's what Diane was saying, so I don't know. I'll have to check that out.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure we got a letter already.
Somebody forged it.
Just kidding, Kelly.
Okay, good.
So yeah, I think sending the letter out and starting the process that way makes sense.
And then you come in with a recommendation, or do you want us to interview like she was saying?
Well, I guess let's see what we get back from it, and then go from there.
Yeah, I thought it was a good process last time for my district anyway. So we got a very, very good new member from that.
Diane, does this reflect, I guess there wouldn't have been many or any changes to any of these positions with this most recent election. Is that, so this
Right.
is the date list?
Yeah, this is the only position. That's why we waited till after the election to do it, in case we had more.
Okay. Yeah, no, I'm good with the letter to circulate.
Okay, I'll do that. Thank
I
you.
guess the next question is, do we do a yearly appointment of the people we have? Or is that because they come and go, is it a term for the 4 years as we look at our governing structure over 4 years?
That was my impression.
Huh?
I think that was my impression. So there would be a change in 21 because we did a reorg in 2017.
Oh, your whole board. Yeah, that's every 4 years.
Yeah.
The entire makeup. Yeah.
And so that's how we look at them, even though they may come and go. I'm comfortable with that. I'm just as curious.
Good to know.
Thanks, Diane.
Yep, thank you.
Thank you, Commissioners. The next item we have is Jennifer with the November financials.
Thank you, Frank. So Commissioners, on page 2 of the financials, we have the current expense revenue. And through November of 2020, we've received $36,611,171. This time last year, we received $36,106,242. And we are at 95% of our budget. And last year we were at 101% of our budget. So we are, slightly lower than we were last year on the percentages, but overall we're looking pretty good.
Hey, Jennifer,
yeah.
Sorry, what is the benchmark? It's blurry on the.
Oh, it's blurry. It's 91.67%. My printer is running out of yellow ink, so I think that's the reason that's blurry. Sorry about that.
No problem.
Any other questions on the revenue before we move on?
Not for me.
Okay, so going to page 3, 3 and 4, and I just realized that page 4 is the same as page 3. I put this together in a real hurry, so I'll get to you the actual page 4, which is the total treasurer's revenue. We are at, through November, for the treasurer's revenue, $25,291,684. This time last year, we were at $25,537,492. So we are slightly lower than last year, but we are up on our property tax is a little bit higher. Our sales tax is much higher, over $600,000 higher. And I really haven't taken a lot of time to analyze the differences. I know that the interest is very, much lower than we anticipated. We're at $419,504. This time last year, we were at $799,000. So that's a big chunk of where we're off, or where we're lower. One good note, we have received all of our diversion. So we've received, we received 2.27 million, and our amount that we needed to receive was 2.16. So I will work with Victor on the reversals that need to be done to move that difference of 110,000 into the road department. Any questions or comments on the treasurer's revenue at this time? Moving on to page 5, we have the expenditures for current expense. We are at $34,743,625. This time last year, we were at $30,631,369. And we are at 90% of our budget, which is much higher than we were at last year. We were at 84%, but we have to remember that the CARES Act funding and all of the COVID expenditures, the budget amendment is not included in our budget yet. And then all of the expenditures are included in here. So that's the majority of why we're so much higher, especially in the non-departmental. We have about $1.6 million worth of contracts that we're adding in that budget amendment that you'll see tomorrow. So any questions or comments on the expenditures?
Not for me.
Moving on to the page 6, the specific revenue streams comparison for 6 years. We have the community development revenues are climbing. Once again, we're at 2.24 million. The detention and correction services are slightly lower, but those fluctuate, it looks like, over the years. The current expense property taxes are higher. The road diversion property taxes about flat. The county road property tax is a little bit higher. Current expense sales tax is, again, it's 667,000 higher than it was last year. Criminal justice taxes and entitlements are higher at 1.591 million. The rural sales and use tax fund is climbing 797,000. Homelessness prevention filings, 775,000, and that's much higher over the previous 5 years. Lodging tax is down. Last month it was higher at that point than it was over the previous 5 years, but this month we're lower, which is what was expected, I think. The REIT is much higher at 1.461 or 1.460 million. So that's
like double from 15 and 16. That's just,
wow, it's incredible. Wow. Any questions or comments on any of this? So moving on to page 7, the sales tax recap. We received $703,296 in November, which is $130,000 more than this time last year, which I believe is a monthly record of an increase. So that's great news. According to this formula, we're set to receive about 6.518 million, but I think we're actually going to receive about 6.8 million in sales tax for the year 2020. So so that's great. One plus of working from home, I guess. Any questions or comments on that? Okay, so moving on to page 8, the recap. We have our current expense cash is at 14.512 million, and our budgeted revenues received are 95% total. Budgeted expenditures are at 90% total. So moving on to the special fund cash balances, we're at $32,130,865. And that is an increase over the previous 5 years, just as the current expense cash fund is also an increase over the previous 5 years. So great news there. And then moving on to page 10, the current expense and health fund, ER&R and motor pool, budget to actual expenditures. So we are at $339,874 expended for the general fund through November in motor pool, and that's 51.24% of the budget for health and the sheriff's special funds. We are at $25,928, and we are at 104% of their total budget, but that was because of the capital costs that were not included in there. On the total expended for capital lease and capital upfits, we're at $197,731. And there is a budget amendment that's included in the budget amendment for tomorrow. The sheriff is receiving, I think it's $330,000 approximately for that budget amendment. Any questions on that?
Not from me.
Okay, so that's all that we have on the November financials. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jennifer. The last two items we have are reminders for the board. 2 weeks ago or so, we brought forward a supplemental contract change for Building 10 to include architectural, structural, civil, and landscaping engineering that's required for Building 10, the certificate of occupancy, for just under $63,000, the contract to go to Helix. And the last item was a reminder again, the Cdbgcv1 grant, which was a grant that was put forward by the Department of Commerce, probably 3 months ago. We finally got the contract, and the contract is for $597,614. It's with the Lewis Mason Community Action Council, who will be the subrecipient, who will distribute that to all of the cities, all 11 cities within the 2 counties, as well as the unincorporated areas within the 2 counties, to assist residents in low-income situations with COVID-related costs. The contract is for a 3-year period. So both of those are on the action agenda for tomorrow.
Great, that works.
And that's all we have.
Okay, do we have anything for Frank?
I do not.
Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas. Thank you, commissioners.
I don't have anything for you as well. Great. Move on. Do we have Dave here? Yes, we do. Hello, Dave.
Good morning.
Take her away.
Okay, so if you don't mind, good morning, commissioners, everybody. You're going to be seeing kind of a number of our folks on here today. So we're going to start off with Michael. Michael, if you're ready.
Hello, it's Michael here.
Hi, Michael.
We have the Heritage Grant program for the Historic Preservation Commission, and we need to get the news release out on the 15th. So I needed to jump into this briefing to make sure that happened. And hopefully you've seen the draft news release that I sent out, I think, on late last week. Any questions or comments about that? The only thing I had to add to that is I left the amount blank because the HPC hasn't determined what the maximum grant size will be. They'll determine that on Thursday.
I think that email was sent out on the 4th.
Friday, yes.
Yep.
Yeah, no issues with me. This is all pretty standard and straightforward.
Mm-hmm. I'm good.
Thank you. And then also tomorrow we have the new members being appointed. Mm-hmm. And I caught the last bit there with Jan Goodpasture. So, and I think that document, the cover sheet that I sent in last week just left the last piece blank for a write-in. So that's who will obviously be Jan. And then your office will be contacting both the successful and the unsuccessful candidates to let them know.
Yes.
Great. Okay. Thank you.
At least I think so, right, Diane?
Yes, we'll communicate with all of them.
Okay.
Thank you, Diane.
Yeah.
Okay, so our next item is Alex with food establishment permit fees. I saw him. There he is. Yeah. So, I'll be here in just a second. There he is. Okay. Alex, you are on. There we go.
Okay, great. Good morning.
Morning.
I've got our food establishment permit fees proposing some changes in front of you guys. Dave briefed this to Board of Health in our November Board of Health meeting, and it was kind of decided that it should go through commission. But basically what we're doing here, at the end of our year, we do annual billing to our food establishments. And this year is just really poor timing with COVID-19 impacts to these businesses. And we just kind of put our heads together. We're trying to think of something we can do. I don't think this is much, but it might help some of those people out there just have additional time to collect those annual fees to keep them permitted. So basically, we're proposing an extension of their expiration date and due date for their annual permit to February 28th.
I think that's a great idea. I support it.
Same.
Okay, well, that one was easy.
Okay, and then sorry, go ahead.
Go ahead, Alex.
So we were hoping to put this on tomorrow's action agenda, if that's possible.
Diane, is that possible? Linda.
Yes, well, so Alex, you're just asking that it be extended. Is that the action the board's taken?
To February 28th, I think.
Okay, yes, we can do that.
Thanks, Diane.
That's all I had. Thank you.
Thanks, Alex.
Okay. All right, next we have Todd Parker, and I see Todd is on.
Yes, good morning, commissioners and everybody else. So bring forth you the Eviction Rent Assistance Program grant. Our strategy has been 3 funding rounds, since this grant has some performance elements to it. So we're at that 3rd and final funding distribution. And in the briefing, I provided kind of a table there that shows how much has been paid out through Crossroads Housing and kind of what they have in the pipeline. And so this final amount is $62,516. And Crossroads has been doing an excellent job and has the pipeline of applicants to potentially spend this out. So just looking for your approval to move this amendment to the December 15th action agenda.
Good.
Madam Chair, I'll be supportive of moving it forward, but Dave, I just want to point out again, as I'm looking at it, I know we have some issues that happened in North Mason and the like, but I'm looking at the breakdown. Each district is set up with 1/3 population each. That's just the way it's set up for the commissioner districts. When I look at District 1, I'm looking at about 16%. District 2, I'm looking at 10%, but some of the Shelton could be part of District 2. I can see that. Somehow we have to make sure that these populations are all being taken care of. And I already know that it's not possible that we don't have more that need that help up in my district. And I'm sure the same could be said for those that are up in the Hoodsport area and Cushman area and stuff. Somehow we have to find a way to get these out to our locations a little more equally.
Well, Todd and I will be talking about that today, because I'm going to be meeting with the team here. 10 out some priorities, and that I didn't get that one on this morning's priority list for the week, but we'll put it on there.
Because I said before, I don't think it's our job just to shuffle papers. Our job is to find the solutions to make the numbers happen correctly, and to find whatever is broken in those communities to make sure that those people get represented as well. So thank you for that. But I am supportive of moving forward.
Same here. I'm good moving it forward.
Okay. All right. Next item then is Kel.
Good morning.
Morning.
I have 2 items. The first one is setting the public hearing for next week's action agenda for a rezone. It's a down zone of a 1/2 acre parcel. It's currently rural commercial 3. It's the former location of the Golden Pheasant Tavern. And the request is to rezone to rural residential. So I'd like to set the hearing for January 5th.
Right now it's voted on by the.
The Planning Advisory Commission did vote to approve, recommend approval, and that was at their November 16th meeting.
Yeah, as y'all know, I'm not usually supportive of removing our commercial area, but in that one there, it's connected right to the, it's so close to the real commercial core of the county. And I don't know that another business would be successful there. It would have been successful.
Yeah, and in this, I went to the site and it already appears to be a residence, and it is surrounded by residential to the south and to the west. There is some industrial property on the north end, but it does fit for the residential zoning.
I'm supportive for putting it on the agenda.
Same here.
I'm good.
Okay, and then our next item, also setting a public hearing. I also have Josh Luck, our building lead, with me today. This is to set the public hearing to adopt amendments to Title 14 and adopting the 2018 State Building Code amendments. As you may know, we have this, the state has extended our timeline for getting this adopted, and so February 1st is now the final deadline for the county to adopt the new codes.
Commissioners, just I voted against these on the State Building Code Council, so I'm now in a wonderful position of having to accept them, at least in part in our county. But I had a lot of issues, in particular with the energy code that was adopted by the State Building Code in particular. But a question for staff: are there any recommendations or modifications that are being offered as part of this or recommended by staff where we're allowed?
I'll go ahead and let Josh answer this.
No, Commissioner, we are adopting the code as set forth by the state. We're not adopting any additional sections or appendixes other than those, once again, that align with state requirements.
And I'd like to step in and ask, in the past, we've gone through this over the many years that I've been here. One of the things that we've always held very tight, a line that we've always held tight as commission, is adopt only what's absolutely required by law to adopt, not what they put forward. And quite often there's been a lot that wasn't absolutely required. Could I ask that you please go through everything and make sure that anything brought to us is separated in those two categories?
Yes, we will. Like I said, our goal is just to adopt what is required, not go above that. Like I said, just stick with the requirements set by law.
Thank you. Or at least give the other commissioners, because I'm not making that determination, give the other commissioners an opportunity to see the differences so they could make that determination. But I have a feeling this commission has always been very pro property rights. I have a feeling that the other commissioners will see it the same way I do. But it's up to them to see it.
Yep, I agree. I appreciate Commissioner Schutte being a part of that team also, and for voting against it. I think that says it's a powerful statement for our community. Unfortunately, we're just a county. And we can't.
At least we were at the table. Thank you, Commissioner, because what's the old expression that if you're not at the table, you're on the menu?
But I was happy to see that both Governor Inslee and then again the State Building Code Council was willing to extend the deadline for implementation. Just with this isn't a localized issue, but certainly across the state, both regulators and builders, we're struggling to kind of keep everybody's head above water this year, and so having a little bit of extra time to implement, I think, will help, ensure that folks are able to familiarize themselves with the code as much as they can, and then of course allow the supply chain to kind of meet up with some of the changes in terms of building materials and those kinds of things. So appreciate everybody's flexibility on that. And I know our staff will be working hard to weed through this and get it ready for us to implement in February by the deadline.
Yeah, I do want to mention also that we will be posting on our website and sending out a notice to folks who are requesting submittal appointments for permits, just letting them know about the upcoming new code time, February 1st.
Do you anticipate with a notice like that, do you anticipate a run, if you will, on people coming in to try to get their permits under the 15 code? Or
I think we're feeling it already.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah, I have to say, if I was a builder, I'd probably be rushing to get mine in. Okay, sounds good.
Okay. All right. And our next item is Amendment 18 to their consolidated contract, the CONCON and Casey.
Hello, Commissioners. This amendment, most of the items in here are just ongoing programs that we've been doing. The one additional funding is $20,000 for COVID-19, and it's for a translation of already existing materials into different languages. So that's an additional $20,000 that we didn't have in our budget or budgeted. Then we have Division Emergency Preparedness and Response. That's been ongoing, even though most of it's being used now for COVID, but it's already been budgeted, and it's pretty much an ongoing thing. Even when COVID's not going on, we still go through preparation and training exercises. Then the Maternal Child Health Block Grant, again, that's $67,000, and it's an ongoing program. We've been doing that. And Office of Immunization Child Profile, that's also an ongoing program. It's just one of the programs we do here. So, and I want to put this on the action agenda for the 15th, if possible.
Good with me.
I'm good.
And if I can just add, so on that first thing, the COVID emergency language and community outreach, we heard this morning from the EDC that that's a concern of theirs. So I think this comes at an opportune time for us to get those materials for both North and South EDCs and get those materials distributed. So I think that'll work out with some serendipity there. So.
Serendipity, huh?
Yeah, I had to use that in a sentence today. So. So I'll get with the EDCs and let them know that this is coming down the line, so we can start getting the products put together to get them put out.
Sounds good to me.
Great.
Okay, and other than that, that's really all I have. Most everything else you heard this morning at the emergency operations update brief. So are there any other questions on COVID-related questions?
Dave, can you kind of let everyone else know about the vaccinations and how that's going?
Yeah, sure. Happen to have it in my hot little hand. So yeah, vaccine coordination is a really big part of our work right now, and it's different. Those that will remember H1N1 will notice that this is a different outreach this time. In H1N1, all the vaccines came to the public health departments, and the public health departments arranged for immunization clinics and did the distribution. This is going to be done differently. It's going to be going to the providers. So providers have already put in their request to be on the vaccination support list. We're starting to get word those have been approved, and the providers are getting their notices that they've been approved. What we don't have right now is the amount of vaccine that's been authorized for each provider, but we expect that in the next couple of weeks. So on the 14th and 15th, which should be a week from now, we expect the federal government to get their approval for the first product, and within a week after that, the second product. That will then go to the state for approval. So Washington, Oregon, and California are going together to do a tri-state approval of the vaccines. We expect that to take 1 to 2 days. So really by the end of next week, probably 17th, 18th, we should see vaccine leaving the distribution points for providers. That being said, we don't know what the amount is. We do know that Pfizer has already run exercises in their logistics chain to make sure they could ship things in the right time period with the right containers to the right places. So they've made sure that their system is going to work, which is, I mean, that's a great thing that they've taken that extra step to make sure that the logistics piece won't fall apart. So that's good. We have the COVID-19 vaccination prioritization plan from the state. So, and it's broken out into 4 phases. The first phase is where these first rounds of vaccine are going to be, and I'll just give you a quick rundown. So phase 1 has 3 parts to it. Phase 1A is high-risk workers in healthcare settings, high-risk first responders. Phase 1B is people with comorbid and underlying conditions that put them at significant risk, people living in congregate or overcrowded settings where the majority are people over 65 years of age, and or people with comorbid and underlying conditions, for example, long-term care facilities, farm worker housing, prisons, group homes, homeless shelters. And then 1C is critical workers, the highest risk of exposure, working in congregate settings. For example, agricultural worker groups, food processing groups, those folks are working in very tight situations. So that's where the initial allotment is going to go. And I fully expect that given the uptick across the state, what will probably happen is that we have the allocations will come out, and then they'll probably put a heat map over it and send the majority of the vaccines to the places with the highest outbreak rates. Right now, Mason County is high at 200, I think we're about 225 cases per 100,000 per 2 weeks. So we took a big jump in the last couple of weeks, more than quadrupling our cases. But that being said, we have places in the state that are at over 1,000 cases per 100,000 per 2 weeks. So we're not in the same kind of category. We have talked with our healthcare providers about, so if we don't get an allocation for Mason County, how do we handle that piece? And the Mason Health has a relationship with providers in Thurston County, and we'll be able to get their folks up there to get that initial, so your emergency room folks, your ICU folks, and people who will be doing vaccinations in the COVID-19 phase 1B and on will get their vaccinations there. I did talk to the FQHC in Belfair, and they're going to be arranging to get their folks done through Kitsap County. So they'll be able to do the same thing. And they've put in their request to be a vaccine provider as well. So all the pieces are coming into place, and we're getting kind of the wheels under the cart right now. And I think it's going to start going pretty quickly here once we do get what the vaccine is going to be.
Great. And most of those, the charges, the fee for the vaccine is covered, correct?
Right. So,
but not administrative.
So the federal government is going to be covering the cost of the vaccine, but each provider is going to be allowed to do a dispensing fee. So I know there's some conversations happening right now with Health and Human Services on capping the dispensing fees for Medicaid and Medicare folks, and then the insurance companies are probably also in that conversation as well. So more to follow on that. So that's still out there, and that's coming down from the feds. And I think, if I recall, I think Governor Inslee was also talking about capping dispensing fees in the state at whatever Medicaid, Medicare would pay. So I haven't heard that come down in rule yet. We haven't seen that, but I know that conversation's being had.
Great. All right, commissioners, do we have anything for Dave?
Yeah, Madam Chair, I have 2 things, one COVID, one non-COVID. first on the non-COVID. Dave, if you wouldn't mind, I would have asked Kel or Josh while they were on here, but it looks like they've dropped off. Can you follow up on the burn permit that you're talking about and see if we
have that on a note here. So I'll just add that to it. So yeah, I'll just add that in. And then I know who we need to talk to about that. So
perfect. And then on the COVID side, so over the past couple of days and into last week, we saw statewide issues with Department of Corrections cases surging, including here at the WCC in Shelton. And there might be, we heard on the EOC call this morning that there might be some differences in reporting numbers locally versus what's showing up on the state DOH dashboard. Can you talk a little bit about that so folks that track both understand the differences and some of the steps that are being taken there?
Right. So the corrections facility has a different system. They kind of fall out of our system, obviously, for contact investigation and contact tracing, or case investigation and contact tracing. So they're going to be doing their own on that piece. Their numbers have spiked at this facility, and this facility is one of the intake facilities for the state. So these get inmates come to Mason County first at the correction center, and then they go elsewhere. So once they come in, they're quarantined for the 2 weeks before they go into general population. And it sounds like it got out or is within that, maybe that early quarantine group. The numbers don't match because what we're tracking here really are the residents of Mason County who may be working at the facility. Those are the ones that we do the contact investigation and contact tracing on in cooperation with the corrections facility. So as those get reported through DOH, it's going to look different than what we're reporting here in the county and what DOH and WCC is going to be reporting because they have their own reporting system. But we're working with WCC to track those numbers, and it's spiked in other facilities around the state as well, like Walla Walla and a couple of others. So it's definitely gotten into that population. But again, the ones we're really concerned about the most for Mason County are those local residents that work there and making sure that we get on top of that, which is where antigen testing comes in. I really want to see antigen testing. That's why we're looking very hard. In fact, I was just on the phone just for this call with an antigen testing provider to see if we can get 10,000 kits that we can start putting out to our jail and to other congregate living settings here in Mason County and have that ability to do rapid testing once a week, maybe twice a week, so we can stay on top of who's actually infectious and we can get our hands around this before it becomes something like the corrections facility.
Great, thank you.
That was quite a spike and
yeah,
quite a shock about the total numbers. I was shocked.
Yeah, so I'll be meeting with the team here at 11 to get the latest numbers. So I will shoot that out to you folks once we get that.
All right, great. Also, could we ask, or I'd like to ask Kel to give us an update every briefing about planning, what the numbers are. Appreciate all the information that she gave me recently, but that way we can share it with all the commissioners and know where we're at.
Okay. Can do.
Also, just out of curiosity, do we know when the program, the online program, do we know when that will be up and running full force?
Well, first, so we've got Bluebeam on its way. I don't think it's been installed yet. We have, I think, one station that's up on Bluebeam. And by that, it's on the laptop, so the person can take it home and do the work on that. So we're doing the kind of a beta test on that. As soon as that's ironed out, we're going to install it everywhere. So actual timeline, I'll have to ask Kel what she's estimating on time-wise.
Okay.
Probably the first of the year, I think, is our goal.
Good. Commissioner Netherland, do you have anything for Dave?
Just a thank you and a Merry Christmas.
You bet. I've got some stuff we'll be bringing over to your office, so you'll see me just a little bit.
Okay.
All right. Thanks, Dave.
All right. Thank you.
All right, commissioners, do you want to take a quick break?
If we can keep going, I'd rather.
Want to keep going?
Good with that.
I'm good. I'm good. Loretta?
Good morning.
Good morning.
How are you, commissioners?
Good. How about you?
Good. I think, let me see. Video action. Ah, bright sunshine.
Okay, there you go.
There we go. All right. Well, let's see. I've got Victor and Richard on the line and Mike here as well. And I'll kick it over to Richard to talk about Christmas trees.
Good morning.
Hi, Richard.
All right. Well, I got a quick news release for free Christmas tree recycling. Mason County announces free Christmas tree recycling available at the following locations starting December 26th through January 10th at the Shelton Transfer Station located at 501 East Hills Hill Road from 8 a.m. to 4:45 p.m. and also at the Belfair Solid Waste Drop-Off Facility located on Sand Hill Road from 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. Customers of Mason County Garbage Recycling Curbside Service can cut up their trees and stick them in their cart as part of their regular pickup. Please note that all trees dropped off for free recycling at county facilities must be free of tinsel, decorations, and flocking. Wreaths and garlands will not be accepted for free recycling since these items contain wires and therefore cannot be recycled.
Seems like we just did this.
Oh my gosh, I know it.
Right? My, how time flies when you're having fun.
Yeah. All right. So we'll get that on the action agenda and read that at the next commission meeting. And next up, Victor is going to go over a budget transfer for our wastewater, our Belfair sewer facility.
Good morning, commissioners. It's my pleasure to brief you today concerning our request of a budget transfer authority between salaries and benefits and operations in Fund 413. This, as you may see, this budget transfer by its nature has no overall impact to the fund as the lowering and raising of expenditure authority would offset. Let's see, I have also included in your briefing packet resolutions 2617, which would require, whereby you have required the approval of any expenditure transfers exceeding 15,000, and this does. And also resolution number 118-19, which is also an offers some compliance requirements by the county, which we are adhering to by requesting this budget transfer. More specifically regarding this transfer, it notes the availability of funds, availability of budget authority in operations, and specifically that would be provided by our underspending in personal service contract line items, which is a prerogative and a management technique there, whereby they've identified the work to be done in-house rather than through third parties. So the nature of the expenditure arises because of turnover in hiring and a need to supervise newly hired individuals in the Fund 413, the Belfair Wastewater and Water Reclamation Fund. With that, we'll entertain any questions that you might have.
Any questions, commissioners?
None for me. Thanks, Victor.
Well, I think you must have done a very thorough job. There's no question.
Well, thank you very much.
Well, it's
Thanks,
nice.
Victor. All right, commissioners, and with that, I'll turn it over to Mike to talk about the asphalt finishing roller.
Morning, Commissioner.
Good morning.
As noted before, we would like to purchase a used double drum finish roller. Public Works currently rents rollers of this nature at about $7,900 per year. So what we did is approach the supplier, and county staff worked out a deal with them to apply the rental rate to the cost of the purchase. And we also looked at to trade in a surplus skid steer attachment for a balance of about $35,000. Now, what the selling price on this is $46,500, and so we're down to $35,000. But this is selling price is a used selling price. The brand new ones are about $60,000. So just kind of keep that in mind. So we're not half price, but we're getting close to that. And we expect this piece of equipment to last at least 10 years, if not, 15 or 20. So we're requesting.
And it looks like we have a payback in over what, 5 years?
What's that?
It looks like we have a payback that we will have paid for in 5 years of rental.
Yes. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
I very much support this.
Same here.
Yeah, I think it's a great idea.
Thank you.
Yep.
We will get going on that. Thank you, commissioners.
Hey, just out of curiosity, do you have to have a special license or just a CDL?
This is not a CDL requirement, no. Just a piece of equipment gets trained and operated.
Just curious.
I had never thought about that, but I will now every time I see somebody driving one of those things.
My dad was a heavy equipment operator, and so I'm always curious. I love big machines, and I remember sitting inside the steering wheel on some of them. I was so tiny that my dad would take me around. You can't do that anymore, but
Right. The good old days.
Right.
Do I hear volunteers for signing up for special training?
I'd do it in a heartbeat. I'll never forget in Hawaii, I told the story before, 20 years ago, you're driving down the road and the ones working for the city of Honolulu drinking their beer as they're driving their backhoe.
Oh, jeez. No ideas.
I don't think that's allowed anymore.
Yeah.
Right. The good old days.
All right. Sorry to take you on a different road.
No problem. Next up, commissioners, we're requesting to set a hearing to renew the City of Shelton's franchise agreement for their utilities that are located within county road rights of way. So these are primarily roads that are located within the urban growth area surrounding the City of Shelton, although we do have a couple of little pocket areas within the city where we do have county roads as well. So this allows the city to do their necessary work within the county right-of-way. And I'm pretty sure you're familiar with most of the terms of the franchise agreements.
I'm just curious if we have a traffic impact assessment fee on our end of the spectrum when we're dealing with them.
We do not.
Oh. Is there time?
Is there time? Possibly. So we'll, I've got an email to the city. They're scheduling their review and concurrence with their council here shortly. So we may need to finesse the actual hearing date based on the city's review and approval process, but so that's what we're rolling with.
Okay, good with me.
Any other questions, commissioners?
I'm good, and I appreciate your quick response. I got a call from the city, and you were right on top of it. So you were there before they even called me. So
well, it had been kind of dragging a little bit on our end, so it was fortuitous that it was good timing.
Good.
But we've got her now.
Great. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, commissioners. That's all we have for briefing to take items to action. And we do have a couple of discussion items to follow up with you. And the first item is to just touch base with you, commissioners, about our road vacation process, given our recent change in our code language and some recent hearings examiner decisions. And just want to make sure Mike's going to relay how we're handling things. I think Commissioner Schutte, you raised a question about what's vested or when do we start capturing our new code process, if you will. Right. So Mike's going to relay how we're approaching it and answer any questions you may have, and just make sure that we're all together on how we're moving forward.
Yeah, so as the process went on with these vacation requests, it was brought up to whether we should change the code, and so eventually the code has been changed. Our policy has been to continue with the prior code on any applicant that had been turned in before the change of the code. And so that's the way we've kind of been operating and seeing that. It's been brought to our attention by the hearing examiner that that's not necessarily a fixed rule. In other words, we probably could be applying the new code even though it's a past application. We would like to continue to follow the procedure we are. We only have a couple more left that would be in the prior process, but we would like to ask the board what process would be, and we also obviously have to review it with Tim Whitehead. So
I'll probably still continue to vote against them until that time comes, but I'm supportive of just continuing with what you're doing. You're doing it right. Those that already applied didn't know any different. To stop them and go back doesn't seem appropriate. Even though I'll be voting against it, it still just seems like you're handling it in the right way, in my opinion.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think it's difficult to kind of change things on folks midstream, even though we can. Let's just kind of clear those out of the queue. And then, have a very clear, hard start to the new policy.
I would agree.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
All right, commissioners, and now I'll kick it over to Richard again, and he has an introduction for you for our new solid waste program manager, Kevin.
Unfortunately, my camera isn't working.
What?
I moved on. You can see this and everything.
Have it run around to Loretta's office.
I was going to say, I'll go run my laptop over.
Yeah, he's running over that way. Okay, so
perfect.
This is Kevin Giosa. He was our solid waste attendant 3, and he's been promoted to program manager 1. There he is.
Hey guys, nice to meet you.
Kevin's already had a nice positive impact on operations already, so I'm very happy with that.
Your predecessor spoke highly of you.
That would be Zach.
Yeah, that's
Is that who you mean by that one? I worked with him for a while. I was out there for, I think, 3.5 years, and I learned to know it pretty good out there.
Yep.
And I'm pretty excited to be taking over and hopefully keep it going well.
I think he had faith in you from our last conversation.
Yeah, it was definitely a change for me because I've just always been an equipment operator and never really had to push pencil, but I'm learning it pretty quick and it's coming to me easily so far.
Good.
That's good. That's very good. Yeah.
Welcome aboard.
Well, thank you. So with that, seeing you guys.
With that, that left a hole that I'm going to ask to hopefully you'll let me fill a solid waste attendant 3 position.
I support it.
And then just one other bright spot, our extra help, Kim Forsman, we've promoted her to solid waste attendant 1 to that opening that was previously held by Lisa Montalto. So we'd also ask if we could backfill that extra help position as well.
It's in the budget, right?
Yep.
I support it.
Support it too.
Yeah, same.
Oh, thank you so much. That's all I got.
All right. Nice meeting you guys.
Bye.
All right, commissioners, that's all we've got on our agenda today. That's a wrap up for, it's just hard to imagine. This is the last briefing for 2020 and last action items coming up. Pretty amazing.
Yeah, it is. It is. I think you and I have a call this afternoon. I'm looking forward to that.
We do, yes.
Yeah. Commissioners, do you have anything for Loretta?
Yes, I do. Loretta, a while back, we've had some conversations about WAVE, and none of that ever got brought forward. I haven't heard anything ever since, and now I have customers or I have constituents calling me again. You know, it's pretty bad out here, and it's out of control up in my area. You try to call and get a contact with them, and you're looking at an hour, 2 hours. I actually personally had a 2-hour one that I documented and kept forward, waiting to get somebody on the phone. One of the biggest insults is they tell you how important you are to them. Please wait on the line. And you don't feel important after the first hour, I'm telling you. Mm-hmm. But aside from that, the costs of have gone up so far. And granted, you call them up, you complain, they cut it back down for you, but it's just not realistic to do for all these customers. A year or so ago, 2 years ago, they made everything had to use a specific type of small box, couldn't work on your TV anymore. And basically that became an increase. If you had 3 TVs in your house, it became an increase of what, $19 a month just with that, not counting other increases, and then separating their packages. I've got my clients, my constituents out there, they're paying $3.90 and up for some of these services out there. It's just way out of control, and there's no way to even complain about it. So again, they're not servicing the people that they promised us they would when we remember when they were purchased by this other company. They said, and I became supportive because they made some promises. They never followed through with any of them. None of them. None of the services were brought to any of those communities. PUD is stepping in now to do one of those. But at some point, we have to hold these people accountable. That's our job. We're the only ones that can. And so I would like you to please look into that again, and let's do a good follow through on this. Talk with Tim, and let's bring this back so we can have a conversation as a commission, and I can have the further conversation with my other commissioners here about what's happening in my community.
Okay, will do. I did, commissioners, receive a call from a gentleman in the Tahuya area who was also they weren't specific to WAVE, but also looking for just better internet coverage or fiber coverage for Tahuya. So it could be that might be one of the calls that you received, Commissioner.
The last 2 were both female, so I'm positive it wasn't.
Okay, all right. Yeah. So absolutely, we will get on that and get together with Tim and see what our options are. We'll drag out. I know that last time that we had this conversation, we had pulled all of the specific franchise provisions out to reference. So we can get moving on that shortly.
One of these constituents is even going to do the work to show the difference on the billing and stuff with the other, because they had a connection with the canal many years ago.
Okay.
They're going to show some comparisons that we can share with the commission.
Okay, great. Okay, anything else, commissioners?
Not for me.
I have nothing.
Okay.
Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas. Thank you.